Well, the Patriots have agreed to trade Rob Gronkowski and a 7th-round draft pick to the Buccaneers for only a 4th-round pick in return. So, Shannon, did Bill Belichick get fleeced in this trade?
I don't believe so, Skip. I think, like I said, remember, Skip, he tried to trade him earlier. Now, he's trying to trade him. He traded him now after knowing that Gronk had been out a year and saying that the only way I'm playing with Tom Brady. You can't put him on the open market because he's already made that public. I'm not playing unless Brady's my quarterback. So what are you going to get for him? Skip, you remember there was a situation where Mike Shannon, my former coach, tried to trade Jake Plummer to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and John Gruden. And Jake says, if you trade me, I'm going to retire. Well, Mike called his bluff and traded him, and Jake Plummer retired. So, Skip, I'm not going to give a trade for someone that's going to retire, give up a draft pick, and then I'm out of a draft pick. No, Coach Belichick didn't have a whole lot of leverage. He got what he could, but you plus remember, Skip, Coach Belichick did not anticipate Gronk giving him anything. He was retired. So if I don't anticipate anything, Skip, if I throw something out, and I'm not calling Gronk trash, but I'm saying if I set something side the curb, somebody says like, you throwing this away? I'm like, yeah. How about I give you $50 for it? Okay. I'm in no position to argue, Skip, because I didn't want it anyway. I didn't anticipate having it. I'm letting it go. Skip, if you and I both know, had Gronk had that great season, let's just say he plays last year. Forget the season that he had. He plays last year. He had some tape. And let's just say Gronk is 78 touchdowns. It's hard for me to believe that Coach Belichick can't get at least, at bare minimum, 3rd rounder without having to give up that 7th rounder. But because he took that year off, because his numbers were uncustomarily Gronk the year before, I think that had a lot to do with it. Plus, Skip, like I said, Coach Belichick only has $1.50 in cap space. What the hell are he going to do with $10 million? So I don't think he got fleeced. I think Coach Belichick's like, what Coach Belichick is doing, Skip, you see this. He wants guys that want to be there. I think those other 2 guys, this is kind of worn on them, Skip. And when you're young, you can tolerate a lot of things, Skip. But as I got older, my nerves started to freight. And all that yelling and run stuff over again and repeat, it gets on your nerves, Skip. Now, Mike Shanahan, my former coach, and Brian Billick was nothing like Bill Belichick. I can imagine. But I remember, Skip Bayless, when Lane Johnson said, they're not having fun over there. They're just and Skip Bayless and everybody creamed it. And lo and behold, just not 2 years later, the whole thing went to shambles.
You have not heard me condemn Coach Belichick's culture just because Brady and Gronk finally burned out on it and said, that's enough. Obviously, Tom lasted 20 years, and I can't argue, obviously, with 9 Super Bowls and 6 rings. So it was working in large part because Tom Brady helped make it work because he was always the buffer, the mediator in the locker room, telling all the younger players, it's okay, just swallow it, bite your tongue, do your job like he asked you to do, and we're going to win rings. And because he set that tone and example, it continued to work. But again, to your point, Belichick did want to trade Gronk before his final season, which was 2 seasons ago. And he had a deal in place with Detroit for a 1st-round pick. Okay, fair is fair. 1st rounder for Rob Gronkowski, greatest tight end ever. At that point, he was still 28 years of age. And yet Gronk said, no, I only want to play with Tom Brady. So to me, back to Jenny's question, the harder I look at this, the more it feels like Bill Belichick did get fleeced. And maybe he wanted to get fleeced. Maybe he wants to say to the world, hey, I don't need Tom Brady. I'll let him go for nothing. I don't even need Rob Gronkowski. I'll just basically give him away for a 4th and also give them a 7th. So it sort of, as we talked about, it actually mitigates to a 5th. So I basically, he's saying, I give him away and I'll show you. I'll take all these spare parts, these faceless, nameless cogs, and I'll rebuild on the fly here and I'll win without them. And I think that's what he's trying to do because, Shannon, I get it that Rob Gronkowski was not going to play for Bill Belichick. That was a done deal. That was a given.
Yes.
But the other half of that equation was he only was going to play for one man, one team, and that was Tom Brady's Buccaneers. So Belichick had to know, well, wait a second, I do have leverage here because that's the only place he's going to go. And they desperately would love to have him. They don't need him. They still got two quality tight ends, but they don't have Rob Gronkowski. And obviously behind the scenes, Tom Brady was pushing like crazy. Psycho Tom was going psycho over, you got to get this done. Well, if you got to get it done, then either A, you give up O.J. Howard, tight end for tight end, and I would have been fine with that swap as much as I believe in the future of O.J. Howard. I still think that would have been a fair deal for both sides, a good deal for both sides, and that didn't happen. So then as a fallback, you'd say to Tampa, well, give us a 2, give us a second rounder for Rob Gronkowski, because I still believe Tampa would have done that. Tampa has a second rounder in this upcoming Thursday night draft. Bill Belichick gave up his second rounder for Mohamed Sanu. Even you said, bust, swing and miss by Bill Belichick. And seriously, Shannon, when I step back from this, I say, well, obviously, Bill is an all-time great defensive football coach. There's no doubt about that. And you can certainly make the case, as you often do, that he's the greatest football coach ever. I still think it's Bill Walsh, but we could fight about that another day. But when we talk about team building, when we talk about Trader Bill, he's looking all-time bad, because just in recent memory, he just gave away Jimmy G. I don't know what it was. Was it a spite move because he was forced to trade him by Robert Kraft? He calls up John Lynch and Kyle Shannon and says, hey, I got a deal for you. Would you give me a 2 for Jimmy Garoppolo? And they're like, seriously? They thought it was like an April Fool's joke. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll give you a 2 for Jimmy G. And they got their starting quarterback, and we're going to talk about them later, because they had a chance to get Tom Brady and decided to even stick with Jimmy G that they stole for a 2. So was that a spite trade by Bill Belichick? I have no idea. But then we go to, remember, he then, I thought, pretty much gave away Jacoby Brissett, another quarterback he developed, who's been a starting quarterback and a decent starting quarterback in this league. He gave him away for Philip Dorsett, who's now gone to Seattle. I don't know. That wasn't, you don't trade a potential starting quarterback for kind of a bust of a first-round pick wide receiver in Indy who did some nice, he had his moments for Tom Brady, but not like what Jacoby Brissett has done. We talked about the Sanu deal. That was just a swing and a miss. And then, I don't know, Duron Harmon, he just traded away to Detroit for a 5th-round pick, and Duron was a starter for this team last year for New England. So, Shannon, I don't know. It looks like Trader Bill is he's looking worse and worse.
Well, Skip, I want to stick to this trade, but you have to understand that but if I'm not mistaken, Skip, they were going to trade Gronk in either a second or a third for Detroit's 1st-round pick. And I think the thing is, but you also have to understand, Gronk was the all-pro tight end, and he went to the Pro Bowl. So that's what you have. So that's what you're bargaining with right there. So look, and like you said, he was under the age of 30. So I can go to you like, look, this is the best tight end in football. He's under the age of 30. He just had an all-pro Pro Bowl type Pro Bowl season. If you want him, this is what it's going to take. Now take that away. The next year, Skip, he has his worst season since his rookie season, tied for a career low in touchdowns with 3. And the year after that, he sets out the entire season. Skip, a 4th-round pick is more than what the Patriots thought they would get from Rob Gronkowski this season, because they did not anticipate him playing at all. So at least Coach Belichick says, look, if he's not going to play for me and he wants to play over there, I got no problem with that. That just goes, Skip, that just goes to show you. Coach Belichick basically just said, I don't care. I would not be surprised if Julian Edelman might get traded there or he might get released. But the thing is, Skip Bayless, if we mention Tua in all of his injury history, shouldn't we bring that up with Gronk? With his injury history on the other side of 30? Because he's going to be 31 next month, Skip. You keep talking about 30. He's 1 month away. Now, we know what he can be. But his injury history is extensive, and he's been injured more times than we wish that he had been. So that's there also.
Yep.
So for Skip, I think Coach Belichick got what he can get, given the circumstances, given that Gronk had let it be known publicly, I'm either playing with Brady or I'm not playing. So you don't have the leverage that you once had. And Skip, that's why your teams want players to keep trade requests hush. Because once that becomes public, you lose a lot of the ability to get fair compensation. Not that you're going to get fair compensation looking at basketball, because they trade players left and right. But you want to keep that demand down, so, it just comes out of the blues like, oh, really? Okay, yeah, we'll give you that. Like Ngakoue in Jacksonville, Skip, he's letting it be known. Well, how is Jacksonville going to get fair compensation if he's arguing with the owner's son on Twitter and letting it be known he wants out? How are they ever going to get fair compensation?
Okay, back to one quick point that you made. The proposed Detroit deal before, this is going back 2 years ago, before his final season in New England, Gronk's, the proposed deal was New England was going to get a first-round pick. They were just going to trade places with Detroit in the second round. So that was the deal on the table that Gronk, Gronk successfully vetoed it because he said, I only want to play with Tom Brady. I don't want to go to Detroit. Now back to O.J. Howard. Again, I have read this. I have heard this. I don't know this for a dead solid fact, but I think Belichick has talked to Tampa about trading for O.J. Howard in the past. So there was already interest there that had never come to fruition. So I still don't quite understand how he couldn't have pushed for and finally won O.J. Howard. The only plausible theory here is because O.J. did wind up some in Bruce Arians' doghouse last year because he still was, he hadn't quite grown up yet. Is it possible that Belichick called Nick Saban, and obviously they're very close. There was a documentary done on the two of them, or sort of a sit down with the two of them. Did he call Saban and Saban warned him off O.J.? I don't know, but I'm pretty sure, because I've heard and read this so many times, I'm pretty sure Belichick at least kicked the tires of trading for O.J. Howard before. So how Tampa wound up with Gronk and kept O.J. Howard is beyond, it's beyond belief to me, because Tampa can use O.J. Howard, as we talked about earlier, to take some of the reps off Gronk and try to keep him fresher for a playoff run. So to me, man, Bill turns out looking so bad because he winds up, he gives away a 7, winds up with a 4, and he still has $13 million in dead money on his cap from Tom Brady. So in New England, I'm sure, Patriot Nation is sitting back saying, Coach, wait a second. You just let 2 goats go to Tampa, and all you have to show for it is a 4th that's actually more like a 5th. And wait a second, you still owe, you had to eat $13 million of Brady's dead cap money. I mean, that's just horrible on top of horrible. And then, Shannon, obviously, I look down at what just happened in free agency, and New England did next to nothing in free agency, and there was pretty much this mass exodus. You can say they're all just cogs, they're all just no-name sort of pieces, but they lost Kyle Van Noy and Dorsett and Ted Karras, their starting center last year, and Danny Shelton and Landon Roberts and Jamie Collins, and they cut Gostkowski, and they traded, as I just mentioned, Deron Harmon, and all they added was, help me out if you know these people, Bo Allen, Demir Bird, I know him a little bit from Arizona, Adrian Phillips, a good special teams player, and they brought back Brian Hoyer for the 3rd time. And they kept Devin McCourty, obviously, and they tagged Joe Thuney, and that's it. I just gave you their offseason. And it looks like they are going forward with Stid, as in Jared Stidham, the next Tom Brady? Seriously? So Shannon, are you sure about the Patriots having a better record next year than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Because that's our bet.
Well, Skip, it is what it is now, and I wouldn't be surprised if Coach Belichick traded Joe Tooney because $14 million for a guard that didn't make the Pro Bowl, that's not an all-pro, that's a lot of bread, Skip Bayless, for a guy. That's not Zach Martin. That's not the kid. That's not the kid up in Indy. Those are the two premier guards in all of football. So that's a lot of money for a guy that's a guy. And I don't get why he franchised him. I really don't. I guess they were afraid to lose him, and so they're like, look, come draft time, we're gonna move him. And I guess, Skip, because in free agency, Skip, people bid on things, and they were not going to be able to get into a bidding war with anybody because they were so cash strapped, as you mentioned. And as you say, $13 million in cap space is being eaten up by a guy that's not even on your roster, and that's Tom Brady. So that's $13 million in cap space that you could have if you found a way to somehow do Brady's deal years ago, Skip. But all they did was kept kicking the can down the road. And it kept coming, and it was going to come to this, and they just had to make that balloon payment. But, Skip, when you look at it, I just think with Gronk's injury history, I think Gronk retired and coming off a season in which he was not the Gronk that we're used to. I think that aided in the fact. And Coach Belichick just simply looked at it. I'm not going to get anything out of Gronk. At least I can get a draft pick. That draft pick might turn out to be a special teams player or contribute on offense or defense. And so what do? Hold on to a guy out of spite that's not going to play for me and not get the compensation, or let him go and get some compensation? And I think that's what he did, Skip.
Yep.
Back to the O.J. Howard, Skip. Coach Saban loved guys from Alabama because they're coached by Coach Saban. Coach Saban was his defensive coordinator in Cleveland, and they talk extensively. So I'm surprised that they haven't pulled the trigger. So maybe, but that, Skip, when I look at it, I don't think Coach Saban, because we've seen him come to bat for Tua. We've seen him go to bat for other players that come out of Alabama. So, Skip, I don't think he would say anything negative about O.J. Howard. But like I said, you never know. But $2 million is not a lot of money. But when you only got $1.50 in cap space, $2 million seems like $20 million.
Okay, so I'm going to give you an out right here, right now on live national television.
What?
We made a bet that I said Tampa would have a better record next year than New England, and you took it for 5 cases of Diet Mountain Dew.
I did.
Of God's Breakfast of Champions. And right now, I will let you out of the bet for just 1 case. If you just give me 1 case right now, just because I feel sorry for you and I'm so happy for Tampa today, I'll let you out of the bet for 5 cases. Would you like out of the bet right now?
Can I think about it? Can I sleep on it?
Yep, you can sleep on it.
Okay.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.